Get down on your hands and knees right now and press your fingertip into the grout line near the base of your toilet. Do it before you clean it. Do it before you spray anything on it. Feel what is actually there. If that grout is soft, slightly dark, a little spongy under your nail, that is not age. That is not a bad installation. That is a living colony feeding on the moisture your cleaning routine delivers to it every single morning. And here is the part that should stop you cold. The product under your sink, the one you have been using faithfully, the one with the clean label and the antibacterial claim. That product is making the problem worse with every application. Not dramatically, quietly. Week by week, the floor gets softer, the grout gets darker, and the surface gets more dangerous. The fix costs less than $1. It takes 15 minutes, and the person in your house who benefits most is whoever is oldest and least steady on their feet. My name is Kenji Ito. For 11 years I worked under a master waterproofing and tile craftsman who communicated mostly through silence and the occasional very specific criticism delivered at close range. I have since rehabilitated bathroom floors in more than 300 apartments across the city. In all of those jobs, across all of those finished floors, I have not once been called back for a slip injury on a surface I treated. Not once. That is the number I am proud of. What should unsettle you is this. The method I use costs almost nothing, requires no special equipment, and has been quietly shelved by an industry that makes its money on products you run out of. By the end of this, you will understand exactly what is happening to your floor at the chemical level, why the standard cleaning routine accelerates the damage, and what to do instead. Now, let me start with what most people get completely wrong. Because without this part, nothing else I tell you will hold. Your bathroom floor looks clean. That is the problem. The glaze on a ceramic tile is essentially glass. Non-porous. Repels water within seconds, dries fast, looks bright under the light. So you mop, the tile surface dries, the floor looks finished, and your brain registers clean, but the grout lines running between those tiles are not glass. They are cementitious, made from Portland cement and aggregate, cured hard but riddled with capillary channels too fine to see with the naked eye. Those channels are open, they absorb. When you mop a bathroom floor, the tile surface sheds the water in minutes. The grout lines are still holding that water at midnight, still holding it at 6 the next morning when someone walks across the floor in socks. Here is the thing I want you to keep in the back of your mind, and I will come back to it later when it matters most. The floor that feels the driest underfoot is not always the driest floor. A surface can read as perfectly clean and be structurally wet in a way that has nothing to do with how it looks. Remember that. I am not going to explain it yet. What lives in that perpetual interior moisture is not complicated. Bathroom tile contamination is dominated by fungal organisms, particularly dermatophytes, the category that includes the species responsible for athlete's foot and nail infections, and gram-negative bacteria. Neither needs light. Neither needs much space. What both require is a moist, slightly textured surface with a pH in the neutral to mildly alkaline range. Cement grout, continuously re-wetted by standard mopping, provides exactly that environment on a daily basis. And the scrubbing does not help. Mechanical scrubbing with a stiff brush opens the surface of degraded grout, increasing porosity, which increases absorption on the next mopping cycle. You are not cleaning the colony out. You are aerating the soil it grows in. The floor that does one thing, and it does only one thing, is lie to you about its condition by looking clean on the surface while holding moisture in every channel below it. That is the trap. And the cleaning routine most people follow was designed around the surface, not the structure underneath it. Now I will give you the chemistry, plainly, because this is not folklore, and I will not present it as if it were. Acetic acid is the active compound in vinegar, at the concentration found in standard rice vinegar, between 4 and 8% by volume. It produces a solution with a pH of roughly 2.4 to 3.4. The fungal organisms colonizing your grout operate optimally between pH 5 and pH 7. Gram-negative bacteria similarly favor neutral to slightly alkaline conditions. When you apply a diluted acid solution to the grout surface and allow it to penetrate without rinsing, you are not killing the organisms through chemical toxicity in the way a bleach spray does. You are shifting the pH of the capillary environment they inhabit to a range in which they cannot sustain colonies. The mechanism is environmental, not poisonous. That distinction matters because it means there is no resistance possible. You cannot evolve your way out of an inhospitable pH. The physics do not negotiate. Now, the riddle I told you to hold. The floor that feels dry but is not. Here is the answer. The glazed tile surface your foot contacts is genuinely dry and genuinely non-porous. It offers reasonable friction when clean, but the grout lines are wet below the surface, and wet cement grout has a measurably lower coefficient of friction than dry grout. A study published in the Journal of Forensic and Legal Medicine documented bathroom floor falls as the most common location for in-home fall injuries in adults over 65. And identified wet or contaminated grout as a contributing surface factor in more than 40% of the cases reviewed. 40%. The tile feels safe. The grout makes it not safe, and the mopping routine that appears to clean the floor is the same routine maintaining the grout in a perpetually wet condition. Rice vinegar, diluted 1 part vinegar to 4 parts water. That is the formulation. Mix it in any container. The cost per bathroom floor application, measured against the price of rice vinegar at any grocery store, is under $1, often closer to 50 cents. The reason this uses rice vinegar rather than standard distilled white vinegar is not tradition. It is concentration management. White distilled vinegar sits between 5 and 8% acetic acid, applied repeatedly over months to cement grout. That concentration can cause surface etching and gradual degradation of the grout's structural integrity. Rice vinegar runs between 4 and 5%, and at a 4-to-1 dilution, you bring that down to roughly 1%, effective against biological colonization, not corrosive to the substrate over repeated use. The mechanism holds. The surface is protected. Application: dampen a mop or a cloth. Not wet. Damp the way a wrung sponge is damp. Work it across the floor, pressing into the grout lines directly. Then stop. Do not rinse. The rinse step is the one the convenience generation always adds back in because the product labels train them to. Rinsing with water reintroduces a neutral pH liquid into the channels you just treated. It dilutes the effect and resets the moisture condition you were correcting. Let the floor air dry. The smell of the vinegar is gone inside 10 minutes as it evaporates. What remains on the surface is nothing. No film, no residue, no surfactant coating. Standard floor cleaners leave a surfactant residue that is invisible when dry and significantly slippery when wet. The acid solution leaves the tile at its dry friction baseline, which is where it should be. Do this once a week in place of your current cleaner. That is the system. My master kept a brown glass bottle of this solution on the shelf in his workroom. Every job, every floor, before he handed it back. He did not explain it because the clients did not ask. They saw a clean floor and assumed it came from the effort of the work, not from 50 cents of rice vinegar applied at the end. When he retired, nobody thought to write it down. There was no reason to. You cannot sell it. You cannot put it in a trigger bottle with a label showing a sparkling white bathroom and charge $11 for it at the pharmacy. So nobody did. What the modern trade did instead was take the real problem, biological colonization in porous grout, and sell a bleach-based antibacterial spray as the answer. It kills surface organisms on contact. That part is true, and I will not pretend otherwise, but bleach is alkaline. It does not penetrate cement capillaries effectively at application concentration, and the label instructs you to rinse afterward, which means you introduce neutral water into the same channels the bleach could not fully reach, carrying diluted alkaline residue with it. You have mildly improved the surface, thoroughly re-wetted the substrate, and created interior conditions marginally more hospitable to fungal regrowth than before. Then you buy the refill in 3 weeks. This is not a secret kept in a locked room. The chemistry is in any undergraduate microbiology textbook. The mechanism of acetic acid as an antifungal agent appears in peer-reviewed literature going back decades. The knowledge is not hidden, it is only quiet. And quiet does not get shelf placement, the $11 bottle shouts. The 50-cent solution sits in the pantry and says nothing. The only people who remember it are the ones who were shown it before the industry decided there was nothing to sell. Let me be straight with you now, because the people who come to this kind of video deserve the honest edge of it. Rice vinegar solution does not restore grout that has already failed. If your grout is black through, soft to the nail, crumbling at the edges, the acid treatment cannot reverse that. The structure is gone. Damaged grout needs to be removed and replaced before any maintenance method can hold. A grout saw, a bag of premixed sanded grout, 2 hours on a weekend. Not comfortable work, not expensive, necessary. Come back to the vinegar after the repair is done, and it will hold for years. Also, do not use this on natural stone tile. Marble, travertine, limestone, any tile made from calcium carbonate, will react with acid and etch. For stone floors, pH neutral cleaner and plain water only. If you are not certain what your tile is made of, test before you commit. A single drop of diluted vinegar on an inconspicuous corner. If it fizzes or clouds, stop and choose a different approach. The fix I have described is for ceramic or porcelain tile with cement grout. Know your floor before you treat it. Those are the honest limits. Everything else I told you stands. Here is the whole rule, short enough to keep. 1 part rice vinegar, 4 parts water. Damp cloth or mop, not soaking wet. Work it into the grout lines. Do not rinse. Let it dry. Once a week instead of whatever you are using now, the grout stops being fed. The surface stops being coated in residue. The oldest person in your house stops navigating a floor that is working against them. The method that costs nothing to pass on is the first method forgotten when someone figures out how to sell the replacement. That is not bitterness. That is just the way money moves through a trade. Next time, I'm going to show you the silicone bead at the base of your tub, the dark line that no scrubbing ever fully clears, and that gets worse the harder you go at it. There is a reason for that, and the fix involves something almost everyone has already thrown in the rubbish. I will show you what it is, why the scrubbing accelerates the problem, and what a craftsman does instead. The floor was the beginning. The tub is next.